Do you tend to look at other people's lives, see things working for them, and feel tempted to veer away from the things that God promised you and told you to do? If so, stay tuned and I will teach you how to accept the path that God has for you today. What is going on, everyone? We are back for another episode of Prospering with Christ. I hope that you had a wonderful week last week, and I hope that this week will be just as amazing to you as well. So, for today's episode, we are discussing the topic of accepting the path that God has for you. A lot of us have taken the initiative to do things God's way, and we have realized that a lot of the things that God does is very unorthodox. He does things in a way that doesn't make sense to us. It's like when He gives us that step, we take it, but we're questioning it. We're questioning, how is this going to work? How does this make sense? This doesn't seem logical. This doesn't seem realistic. And see, the problem is sometimes the steps that we take in God's direction does not produce results immediately. And then we see other people who are doing things that we think is logical. And we see how life is working out for them. We see how well they're succeeding. And it makes us tempted to veer away from the steps that God gave us, the things that God told us to do. And it makes us want to go the route that other people are taking. It makes us want to go the realistic way. For example, let's say that God told you to start a business and you've been working at this business, you've been trying to get it off the ground, but it's just not working out for you. You're not making any money. You don't even have $100 in your bank account. Your mind is telling you, just go get a 9 to 5. Work your business on your off time. Work your business on your days off, but get a 9 to 5 so that at least you can have some money coming in and you can be secure. But God is telling you, don't get a job. Just continue to work the business. That don't make sense. But you sit and you be obedient and you try to do it. But then you see your cousins and you see your friends and you see everybody around you who's working 9 to 5s. They have careers. You see money coming into their account every single Friday or every other Friday. You see that they take trips every other month. And you're looking at their situation and you're comparing your situation to yours. And then you start to question God. Why can't I just get a job? That could be my life. I could be secure right now. I could be going out and enjoying myself. I could be traveling the world right along with them. But you have me doing something that does not make sense. And it makes you tempted to give up on what God is telling you to do the thing that seems likely and to do the thing that seems realistic. Let's give another example because I'm trying to make this real to you. Let's say that God promised you that you are going to be a wife or you are going to be a husband, but He's telling you not to date. Don't get on dating apps. Don't go out and meet people. Don't go on dates. You're going to be married, but do not date. So you try, you be obedient, but then you see your homegirls and you see that they go on dates every Friday. They go on dates every other week. They're meeting nice men. They're meeting men who are well taken care of. Those men shower them with gifts. Those men take them on trips. Those men do all these nice things for them, these extravagant things for them. And you start comparing yourself to them. Well, God, if I could just date people, if I could just go on a date, that could be me. When God asks us to do something crazy and that thing is not working, but we're seeing it work for others, It's so easy to feel tempted to veer away from the road that God has us on. It's so easy to give into the belief that what we want is never going to happen. See, we believe that because we never see it happening. We only see the realistic way, and we see people succeeding the realistic way. We don't see anybody else going down a similar path as ours. We don't see anybody else doing the same thing that God is telling us to do. We don't see things working out. So we start using their experiences and use our experience, our current experience, where we are in the journey at that moment to confirm that the road that God has us on is not going to happen. It's not going to work out. We're not going to see a good result. We're not going to reach the end or reach our breakthrough. So we might as well just do what's working for everybody else. And if this sounds like you, I don't want you to beat yourself up because it is completely natural. It's a natural response for us to adapt to the things that we see. I love looking up definitions of words, so I went to go look up the definition of the word adaptation. Adaptation is the adjustment of organisms to their environment in order to improve their chances at survival in that environment. AKA, they adapt to what they see in their environment in order to survive. When you're not seeing results on your journey, your subconscious mind starts to take on the mentality that you are not surviving. You're doing the opposite. You're struggling. You're dying. You're drowning. You're miserable. And what your subconscious mind starts to do is it starts to look around and it starts to find ways to get you back to survival, to get you back on top, to get you to a place where you're comfortable again, to get you to a place where you're well again. And once it starts to look around and it starts to see a way that is working, it starts to adapt to that. It doesn't care about the details. It doesn't care if this way goes against what God is telling you to do. It doesn't care if this way is not honoring God. It doesn't care if this way is realistic or not. Its sole purpose is to get you to survival. And so what it's going to do is it's going to start talking to you and it's going to start telling you, hey, this is how you survive. Do that. Hey, this is how you survive. Adapt to that. Don't you see this working for them? Don't you see the results that they have? Why aren't you attaching yourself to what you need to do in this environment to survive? And this is why our environments are so important on our journey. This is why we always hear the saying that we are who we hang around, that our environments have the ability to keep us stuck, that if we want better, we have to get into a better environment because your subconscious mind is going to do whatever it is possible to survive in this environment. And so what you have to do is you have to change your environment so that your subconscious mind can see that there are other ways. There's a way that's not realistic. There's a way that's similar to the path that God took you on. There are people doing the same things that you did. There are people who had to do the same things that you're doing. You have to expand your environment so that your subconscious mind can learn new ways of survival. Because right now they only know one way, and that's why they're tempting you to go that way. But if you would teach your subconscious mind and open it up to see other ways, it's going to start realizing there's another way for me to survive this. There's another route for me to take. There's another outcome that I can reach. There's another path that I can go. There are 1 billion people on this earth, and I guarantee you, they all did not go down the exact same path. There is not a one size fit all way to reach this breakthrough. There are some people on this earth who had to do unorthodox things. There are some people on this earth who had to do things that looked crazy. And you have to find those people. You have to open yourself up to those people so that you can start changing your environment and teaching yourself that there are other ways of survival. There are other ways to reach survival. You also have to shift your focus because your temptation is showing you that you are only focused on the outcome. You see how these people are living. You see the things that these people are doing, and you're saying, I want the same outcome as them. And there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you're in a situation where things are not working. You're in a situation where you need this breakthrough. But you don't want your situation to make the outcome an idol in your heart, where you are willing to do whatever. You are worshiping this outcome. You are putting down your morals to reach this outcome. You are going against God to reach this outcome. You are desperate for this outcome. You do not want to allow your situation to make this outcome an idol in your heart. You have to stop allowing this outcome to have power over you. The outcome is just a resource to get you better, but it's not something that controls you. It's not something that determines you. It's not something that defines you. It's just a resource to help you on your journey, to help you in your life, to get you into a better situation. But it should not be something that you idolize. It should not be something that you worship. It should not be something that you obsess over. As long as you idolize the outcome, the devil's going to use this to create insecurities in you. He's going to use your environment and seeing things working for other people to create insecurities in you. He's going to use that to make you start questioning yourself. You're going to start questioning, am I good enough to have this? Am I really on the right path? Am I crazy for trusting God? Am I crazy for thinking that I can be different, that I can do something differently? He's going to start using these experiences, your environment, and the people and the way that they are living to make you insecure and make you doubt yourself and make you doubt God. And so, although it is natural for you to adapt to what you see, for you to be tempted by what you see, you have to go against what's natural. Everything about God is crazy. Everything about God is unrealistic. Everything about God does not make sense. God says, I am the God that can make the impossible possible. I am the God that can make things that should not happen happen. And so if God can do that, then why do we expect him to do it in realistic ways? Why do we expect him to do it in ways that make sense to us? If you really want God to do the impossible in your life, you have to expect a crazy journey. You have to expect things that don't make sense. You have to sacrifice and go against what's natural in order to get the impossible, because natural doesn't bring impossible results. Are you enjoying this episode so far? Is this episode teaching you how to accept the path that God has for your life? If so, I want you to do me two favors. Favor number one, I want you to leave a review. You can leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening to this episode. Leave an honest review and let me and others know how you are enjoying the show. And favor number two, if you know anyone who has been tempted to go a different route because they're seeing results happening for other people, then I want you to send this episode to them. Let this episode motivate and encourage them the same way that it is motivating and encouraging you. Now let's get back to the show. God is saying to you today, The reason why it seems like things are not working out is because He has been trying to build you up. Think about it like this: when you are building a house, you don't start with the walls. You don't start with the tile floors and the marble countertops and the beautiful faucets and the modern doors. You don't start with the beautiful parts. You start with the foundation. You start with what's underneath. And if you will go to a house while it's in the process of being built and you would see their start, you probably really couldn't see the vision. You probably would not look at that house and say, that's beautiful, or, ooh, what are they building? You wouldn't start to have that reaction until you start seeing the walls go up, until you start seeing the windows being put in, until you start seeing the floors being tiled, until you start seeing the beautiful doors being put on. But just because you wouldn't have that reaction when the foundation is being built does not mean the foundation is not being built. God is saying, you have not gotten to a point on your journey where you see the beautiful parts. Right now, we're at the foundation. And because it doesn't look pretty, you've been overlooking it and you've been thinking that I have not been doing anything. But just because it doesn't look good, just because it doesn't feel good, just because it doesn't seem like anything is happening, does not mean that something is not going on. God is building your house, but you're slowing down the process because you're on the foundation part, but you don't see the foundation. So you've been trying to go to other people's houses. You see how beautiful their houses are. You see that their houses are finished. You see that their houses look nice. And you've been trying to tell God, hey, why don't you use the tools from their house to help me build my house? Why don't I take the tools that they use to build their house and use those same tools to build my house? But God is saying, what if I wanted to give you better tools? What if the tools for their house were cheap? What if I wanted to give you tools that will help you build a mansion? Their house isn't a mansion. Their house isn't even in the suburbs. And you're trying to take something that's less than what you deserve. You're trying to settle. You're allowing your situation. You're allowing your circumstance. You're allowing your mentality and your understanding to make you settle for something that is less than what God wants to give you. And it's all because you don't understand the foundation process. You don't understand what God is doing behind closed doors. You can't see what God is doing behind closed doors, and it's making you want to settle for less than what He's trying to give you. In Proverbs chapter 24, verse 3, it says, a house is built by wisdom and becomes strong through good sense. We have to stop looking at other people's houses and start asking God for the wisdom on how to build ours. God will not bring us this far to leave us. God will not promise us something that was not going to work out for our good. God will not give us a step, even if it doesn't make sense. He will not give us a step that was not going to produce results. And so instead of figuring out and getting wisdom to make the things that He told us to do work, we've been focusing on what's working for other people, but their path is not our path. God's plan for them is not the plan for us. Even if something that they have is similar to what we desire, it is not exactly what we desire. And so God says, by wisdom, a house is built. So why have we not been asking God for the wisdom to build what we've been praying for, what we've been pursuing, what we've been trying at? You need wisdom to remain faithful on this journey. You need God to open you up to different survival modes so that you can adapt to those instead of adapting to what you see all around you. And so instead of giving into the temptation, every day we need to go to God and we need to say, God, give me the wisdom to build my house. God, give me the wisdom to make this work. God, give me the wisdom to see results on this journey. And when you do that, it's going to be easier for you to accept the path that God has for you. And so asking God for the wisdom is just a starting point. But after that, there's some other things that you can do that will help you fight your temptation and accept where God has you. And the first thing that you can do is you can find people who are going in a similar direction that God is taking you in. See, the reason why it's so easy for us to give into the temptation is because everybody that we see is doing things that's completely different than what God is telling us to do. And so that makes us start to question ourselves, and we start to question, can this really happen? Is this really going to work? Am I crazy for believing this? But if you start to find people who are on the same journey as you start to feel comfort in knowing that you're not alone. You start to feel comfort in knowing that somebody's crazy enough to believe God too. Somebody's crazy enough to step out and trust him too. And then now you have support. So when you feel tempted, you can go to this person and you can say, hey, I feel tempted. And you can borrow their faith to stay faithful to God. You also can find people who went down a similar direction, but they made it through. And you can listen to them, you can talk to them, and you can ask them questions. How did you remain faithful? What are some of the things that you did? And use what they did and apply it to help you stay faithful on your journey. Have you ever dreamed of making your voice heard and sharing your message with the world? Well, it's time to turn that dream into a reality by starting your very own podcast. I understand that many aspiring podcasters are held back by the worries of cost, complexity, and the time it takes to launch a podcast. That is why I'm excited to announce my new training program that has all the tools and knowledge you need to launch your very own podcast for free. My training will guide you through every single step of your podcast journey. You will learn how to plan, release, market, and grow your podcast from start to finish. So if you're ready to take a leap of faith and share your message with the world, click the link in the description below to access my new podcast training. Now let's get back to the show. The second thing that you can do is distance yourself from the people who are tempting you. I understand that the people who are tempting you may be people that you love. They may be your friends, your family, your mother, your sister, whoever. I understand that they did not purposely tempt you. They did not do anything. They're just living their life. But you are responsible for your own triggers. And if you realize that this person is triggering you, you have to distance yourself from them and you have to cut them off for a season so that you will no longer feel triggered to turn away from God. God says in Matthew chapter 4, verse 7, do not tempt him. Why would you put yourself in a situation where you know you're going to feel tempted to turn from God? You know you're going to feel tempted to veer away from his plan. We can easily avoid this if we just stop opening up ourselves to seeing what they're doing, to hearing about what they're doing, to talking to them about what they're doing. This does not mean that you have to cut them off for life, but you have to cut them off till you get to a place where you start succeeding and you no longer feel tempted to turn away from the things that God is telling you to do and disobey God on what he's calling you to. The third thing that you want to do is you want to just stop looking at the good parts of their situation and start looking at the cons. Because if we're being honest, we're just choosing to look at the outcome, but we're not choosing to look at what it took for that person to get to the outcome. For some people, they had to struggle like we had to struggle. But for some people, they have to do things that maybe you truly don't desire to do. So let's go back to the example of you being broke and you have people in your life who is traveling every 2 months. You're only looking at the good side of that situation. You're only looking at the fact that they get to travel every month or every other month. But you're not looking at the fact that they're maxing out credit cards and going into debt in order to afford those trips. God told you that you're going to be married, but he told you not to date right now. And you're looking at your friends who's going on dates every other week and they're getting showered with gifts. You're only looking at the good part of that, but you're not looking at the fact that they have to sleep with all those guys because those guys have a transactional mindset. If I'm going to spend some money on you, I'm going to make sure I'm getting my money's worth. Once you look at the whole picture, you'll start to realize that you don't actually desire what this person has. And that's how crafty the devil is. Because the devil doesn't lie to us. The devil just shows us half truths. He doesn't show us the whole picture. He doesn't show us everything. He likes to paint something and make it look better than what it actually is. So that once you turn away from God so that you can have it, now you're disappointed because you're like, wow, this isn't what I expected. But if you just talk to these people and you realize you really don't got it going on like I thought you did, it's going to make you less tempted to turn away from God and go in the directions that they are in. The next thing that you should do is get on the wait list for my new book that is about to be released called Dreaming to Achieving. See, I don't want to just tell you to stay on the path that God has you on. I want to help you understand the path. I want to help you seek God for practical steps that you can do to succeed on this path, to start seeing results on this path, to start achieving your desires and achieving your dreams the right way. And this book is going to help you do all of that. See, this book does not just give you information. It does not just tell you, hey, this is right and this is wrong. This is what you should be doing and this is not what you should be doing. This book is literally an interactive guide. After every chapter, there is a worksheet where you can actually take the information that you've learned in that chapter and apply it so that you can start seeing results. And so if you are tired of failing, if you are tired of just sitting on this journey and not moving, Dreaming to Achieving is going to help you deepen your relationship with God, and it's going to help you work with him to see tangible results. And so if you are interested in getting on the wait list for the book, you can either scan the QR code that's on the screen or click the link in my description to access the wait list. But regardless of if you join the wait list or not, remember, it is natural for you to feel tempted because we adapt to what we see. And that is why it is so important for us to change our environment so that we can see different things and adapt to new things. Although your situation may be hairy, you do not want to allow your situation to turn this outcome into an idol in your heart. Because as long as it is an idol, the devil will use that to attack you, to make you insecure, to make you feel tempted, and to make you want to turn away from God and do things that he did not call you to do. God is not silent. God is building your foundation. You are on the part of the journey where you can't see the beautiful picture. But just because you cannot see it does not mean that it is not getting built. And you are prolonging the journey, trying to take tools from other people's houses and use them to build yours. Instead of focusing on what God is doing for other people, ask God for the wisdom on how to build your house. And along with asking God for the wisdom, in order for you to accept the path that God has for you, you have to find people who are going down a similar journey as yours. Distance yourself from the people who are triggering you and tempting you. Stop just looking at the good sides of their situations and start looking at the overall picture. And join the waitlist for my new book, Dreaming to Achieving, that teaches you how to actually see movement on your journey with God. And so, my action step for you this week is I want you to start distancing yourself from the people who are triggering you on your journey. It is nothing against them, but right now, you getting over this triggers and this temptation is going to take time. And we can no longer allow them in this season to tempt us to turn away from God. And so we're going to have to pull back for a season until we start to succeed and get to a place where we can handle their accomplishments. But that is all that I have for you today. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you subscribe so that you get a notification every time a new episode is released. Also, leave a review and let me and others know how you enjoyed the show. And if you want to stay connected, follow me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Prospering with Christ. But that's all I have for you today, and I will see you next week.